Hello guys, today we're gonna solve LeetCode problem 1929, concatenation of array. Given an integer array nums of length n, you want to create an array ans of length 2n, where ans I will be equal to nums I. And as it's given, array starts at 0 indexed, and ANS is a concatenation of two nums array. Return array as ANS. So the idea here is every time we are given vector nums with the values in it, we should return the twice of the value that nums is given. For example, as test case number 1 here given us nums at the index 0 will be 1, nums at index 1 will be 2, nums at index 2 will be 1, and then it's going to repeat again, nums at index 0, 1 and 2. So we are repeating the values in the given vector and returning it the twice of it. So we can approach to this solution in two ways. The first solution will be using more like a brute force, if you can say it. Obviously it's going to be in the for loop to get all the values of the nums. So first we're gonna create a integer n, let's say, and it's gonna hold the size of an array, size of this vector, to use it in the for loop. Size of a vector, and now we'll create our vector of an integer type and we'll call it ans to hold nums. And let's create our for loop. Int I initialize with 0 every time I is less than n. For loop is gonna iterate. The idea in this for loop is pretty simple. As you can see here, we are creating an I integer initialized to 0 every time n, meaning that size of a vector is bigger than the I. The for loop is gonna iterate, and for each iteration I will be incremented by 1. And inside of this for loop, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use ans vector that we created earlier, and we'll use pushback function. And what this pushback function does is that it's gonna push back the vector values from nums into the ans vector. So we're gonna say here nums I, and this will be the first values of nums. So this part of the code is gonna push back this part to ans. And now we're gonna create a second for loop. Let's say j, with the same logic, and we'll also use pushback function nums I, and this one is gonna push back second values, second time push back nums. Let me just change it first time. Pushback. So this part of the code is gonna push back num's values into ANS vector, so this to here, and the second part of the second for loop and this code will push back this values into ANS. So we're basically creating two for loops. First one to copy the values from the nums to ANS, and second one to do it again. So basically this two for loops is created to push back nums values into ANS vector twice. And now at the end of our solution, we're just gonna return ANS into the main function. And let's see if our code works. No, it says that there is some errors. Oh, sorry about it. There's some spelling errors. Now we click submit, and as you can see, it works pretty fine. And now to the second solution is, instead of creating two for loops, we can basically just create a, first we should create a n which will hold the size of a vector, to hold size of a vector nums. And now we can already get into the for loop. And in this for loop, we use the same logic as we did in the first for loop. And now instead of creating a different vector as we did in the first solution, we can basically just return it this vector again using pushback nums I and return nums. So the idea here is we use the given nums vector, and what we did is we push back the same values that existed in this nums, meaning that this part with nums is already have all these values 1 to 1. And what we did in this part of the code, we push back the values again, meaning that this part already existed and we basically push back it one more time. And let's see if this code works. Yes, it does. Let's hit submit, and it does as well. So we're good.